there, I'm Lloyd Evans. Welcome to The Bunker. You join me for a live stream rebuttal. I am going to be going through Governing Body Update number 6. They're coming out thick and fast, aren't they? 2021 Governing Body Update number 6, which is hosted by Samuel Hurd. If you're unfamiliar with what Governing Body Updates are, well, they have the JW Broadcasting monthly episodes, or at least they have those for, I think, 10 months in the year, 9 or 10 months in the year. But they also fairly recently started putting out quite frequent sort of 10-15 minute shows where they address some, well, usually the pandemic, let's be fair, where they usually talk about their response to the coronavirus pandemic. And so they've been putting these out on a nearly monthly basis. And so update number 6 is there on the jw.org website. I'm going to be taking a look at it with the help of my good friend Hayden Honeywood, who returns to the channel from his days on the Last Days live stream. The Last Days live stream, may it rest in peace. So welcome back, Hayden.
Live from JW. No, I better not do that.
Who's that behind you anyway? There's
I've got Tony. Tony's helping me out.
He's got his eye on you, hasn't he?
Yeah, he does. That's all right.
He's looking quite excited. He's looking quite excited today. Have you got some whiskey next to you on your desk? I'm trying to imagine why he might be eyeing you in that way.
He's certainly eyeing me off, isn't he? Don't do that, Tony. Anyway, he'll be okay. He'll be all right. I think actually below the desk here, he's got a little shelf and he's got some Macallans down there.
You would think so, wouldn't you?
Every now and then.
So
no, you're right.
Go on.
You're right. It shouldn't really be called Governing Body Update. It should be called Pandemic Update, really, because that's really what they go through every month with these updates. So you're right with that.
I know that they have done stuff like this in the past on, for example, Russia. So they perhaps want to keep the franchise open to be able to address any subject. But yes, it's been mostly the pandemic, and that's what Sam Hurd is going to be talking on. Let's just have a very quick look at, before we launch in, let's have a look at the live chat. Lots of people here. Nice to see Amanda, like a fox.
Hello, Amanda
was here for the last one and will be here on future shows. We have John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt, which I'm sure is a legit surname, who says, Hurd is showing the new catchphrase 2022, the earth with renew. Okay. And Eats, Shoots and Leaves says, does anyone think the governing body will face charges in the near future for their terrible child protection policies? Well, if they do, I'm sure the David Splain rant won't serve them well. That will age poorly. Okay, let's get the JW Broadcasting. Hold on there. Hold your horses there, Sammy. So this is Sam Hurd. Sam Hurd speaking in Governing Body Update number 6. Oh, I've got it.
Pandemic would be over by. Were you hoping this pandemic would be over by now? I think we all were. In some places, the number of new cases is low. But in other parts of the world, highly contagious variants are spreading and the pandemic is raging like never before. It's a sobering reminder that this pandemic is not over. We weep with those who weep. And we pray, especially for our brothers and sisters in Latin America and Africa, where there's been quite an increase of cases in recent weeks.
I like the line, we weep with those who weep, given the fact that the initial reaction of Tony Morris, who's behind you, was doesn't bother me. Yeah. So he's gone from doesn't bother me to apparently weeping.
Yeah, I wrote the same thing down. He weeps with those who weep unless they aren't JWs. If they're not JWs, he's not interested in what's going on. And I find it interesting too that Samuel Hurd's. It's sort of like he's delivering the news with to people. Like this is happening here and this is happening there with the virus. Like they don't already know what's happening. It's a bit strange how he does that.
Yeah, if you think about it, they had the global financial crisis a few years ago, which also affected everybody. It would be like doing a governing body update on something like that, wouldn't it? I mean, this is something that's affecting everybody, not just Jehovah's Witnesses. And they're trying to kind of stamp their authority on this as though this is their thing and this is their story, when again, it's old news because everyone's covering it. But as we're going to see, and I think this is why they're doing it, their focus is solely on how it's affecting Jehovah's Witnesses and how it's affecting the organization. So,
yeah. And I think in times gone past too, what they've done is they want to be an authority on something, and they say we're the leaders in this. We've protected our people because and we've done this before government officials have done it, when they haven't really. All they've done is they've just been led by what the government officials have told them to do, but they've pretended that they're the ones who are coming up with these calls and these choices to, shut down meetings, to isolate at home, to do all this sort of stuff. And I did notice, though, that he's been taking a bit of advice from Tony. He used the word sobering there in the first opening line. So I don't know whether that's a bit of a... I don't know if there's a PMO on the script writing committee there at JW Broadcasting, but there's another sobering that they've just slotted in there.
I forgot to put the ping on the screen. Usually I do it like a ping with sobering all over it and a picture of Tony and Bottle King. But sorry, I apologise. I missed that.
I'll just ask you, did you put that there, Tony? No, he's not. He's not telling me. He's
not paying attention.
He's a bit glazed over at the moment.
He's a bit comatose at the moment. Okay.
Yeah.
In other parts of the world, vaccinations have slowed the spread of the virus. We're doing what we can to help Bethelites and other special full-time servants get vaccinated if they want to be. We're happy to report that about 50% of the worldwide Bethel family have been vaccinated so far. Here in the United States, more than 98% of our Bethel family have chosen to get vaccinated.
This was interesting for me. He seems to labour the point of we're helping people get vaccinated if they want to be. As though they're going to sneak up behind a Bethelite and put a sack over them and drag them to the infirmary and jab them against their will. They have to mention this thing about consent because, of course, there are some forms of medicine where there is no choice, or to be more specific, there is a quote-unquote choice. It's just that if you make the wrong choice, you'll have your life ruined. So that's why I think he goes to great pains to mention consent. And he also mentions that percentage of 50% of the worldwide Bethel family is vaccinated, 98% in America. And you wonder, don't you, what's going on with the 2% that haven't been vaccinated so far?
Yeah, he goes into a little bit more detail about this shortly, but I think that's what he's doing, is he's using those numbers to reiterate to Jehovah's Witnesses worldwide that, look, this is what we've done in Bethel, so your decision should be based upon what we're doing here, which obviously is everything when it comes to, if they're doing it in Bethel, then you should be doing it everywhere. But it's just interesting that he rounded off those sort of numbers, and there's quite a big discrepancy there between the United States and the rest of the world, though. It's almost double in the US.
You would hope that that's purely about supply, wouldn't you?
Well, yeah, I know that there is some supply issues, definitely. But you do wonder where that 2%. I don't know what the Bethel numbers are in the United States, how many personnel that is, but that's interesting.
But if you think about it, they make a big deal about how with blood fractions that's a conscience issue. You'd never hear them giving percentages, would you? Like that when it comes, like we've just heard percentages about what amount to quote unquote personal decisions. But when it comes to vaccines, they're never going to say, we're here to report that 80% of the worldwide brotherhood have indicated that they would accept fractions,
Yeah.
So
that's a good point, because it was always whenever we had to fill out our blood cards or our medical directives, it was a personal choice, and no one needs to know what you're doing. No one should sway you one way or the other.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right. They'd never come out and say 80% have decided to accept hemoglobin or whatever the blood. I can't remember half the blood fractions now, but yeah, it's just it's strange that he's decided to do that.
A little bit of a double standard there.
Yeah.
New York state regulations now allow vaccinated persons to engage in a greater number of activities. In harmony with those government regulations, we've been able to resume some of our activities within Bethel.
So there we have the governing body.
I tried to pick something out of this photo that was a bit out of the ordinary, and then I just went, well, it's just the 8 that are sitting there, isn't it?
I'm a little bit disappointed that they can't see the lake from that perspective, because I would really have liked it if they'd have been able to see.
That's the lake just over Jarrett Loesch's shoulder, isn't it? That's the
lake's
like
there. The lake's there. You can just see some trees in the foreground, and those are the trees that line the lake.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting. So you have obviously Jeffrey Jackson furthest left. Then you have Tony Morris, who's at least aware enough to be able to know where the camera is in this picture, which is nice to see. We then have Cardboard Kenneth Cook.
He does look like a cutout there, doesn't he?
I'm convinced he's a cardboard cutout. And then you have Mark Sanderson, Sam Hurd, Gerrit Loesch, David Splain, and Stephen Lett. I'd love more. Some people have said that that's a very expensive painting on the wall, just above Stephen Lett. I don't know too much about that, but I've just heard people saying that it's supposed to be an expensive painting. But yeah, it's a very big office, isn't it? You just sense it's perhaps unnecessarily big.
I gather too, with Mark Sanderson being at the head of the table, that he's chairing the governing body meetings at the moment. I think
probably.
What do they call that? The coordinator of the.
I think it will be rotational, won't it? So he's probably the rotational chairman of the governing body.
Yeah, I can just imagine David Splain though walking over to that window and looking down over the lake and going, "That apostate's out on that boat again." Someone do something about that, quick!
Deploy the anti-apostate weapons that we've had installed. Yeah. Oh dear. Okay. Well, anyway, I find this sort of thing very interesting. But obviously, they're recommencing certain operations within Bethel.
Yeah, it's interesting because we usually see with those kind of photos of the governing body, you only see like I think the main one is the door, the open door, and I think Anthony Morris is greeting someone walking through into the elusive, the exclusive boardroom, and now we actually get to see in the boardroom, and it's pretty plain, but it is very big.
Unnecessarily so. Again, I mean, it'd be useful for playing ping pong, I guess, but what's the why do you need to be that far apart?
No social distancing.
Maybe it's because they're at each other's throats otherwise. Maybe it's deliberate so that Stephen Lett can't strangle Jeffrey Jackson and vice versa. Maybe there's a rift in the governing body.
I noticed there's no sanitizer or anything on the tables either. So that's interesting.
There should be biscuits though, shouldn't there? You should have some digestives on there. Come on.
No, they come in on a cart wheeled in and they go around the circle.
You know more than I do about this.
Oh, insider. It's a bit like when you go on the aeroplane, and they wheel it on the cart. I say, "What would you like today, Mr.
That's
Jackson?"
probably my way in. You'd have a curtain on the trolley, and I'd be like and then I'd sneak in underneath the table and maybe drill through the surface, and a little periscope would pop up and I'd rotate it around. Yeah, okay. My imagination running wild at this point, but let's proceed.
Of our activities within Bethel. The family was delighted that government regulations allowed those who are vaccinated to assemble. That means we could come together for meals in our dining rooms and for our Bethel Family Watchtower study.
We're all glad to be back together here again.
What a happy day that was to assemble again for the Watchtower study. Of course, the decision to be vaccinated is a personal one. What fa-
Whereas,
Yeah.
whether you get a blood transfusion or not is not really a personal one because there are penalties attached.
Yeah.
Again, that's why he has to make this distinction. Yeah.
Just in that shot in Bethel, I thought it was a very interesting shot that they took of just going back there of the audience.
Or the audience.
Yeah,
Okay.
the audience, because I know that when I was a part of JW Broadcasting, don't tell anyone. I happened to be on. I know what the process was of filming audiences and things, and I noticed that there's a lot of empty seats, and that's one thing that they really don't like to show on camera. They like to show venues full, and it's a bit strange how they've organised people and how they're sitting there. There's a lot of empty seats, and I don't know why they've picked that shot. It's just a bit strange
Yeah.
to me.
One or two are actually eyeing the cameraman as well.
Yeah, I'm just assuming that it means that they're at home on Zoom and they're watching because maybe they're vulnerable to picking up the virus or something. But
Okay.
because there's not a lot of older people in that shot that I can see.
No.
They all seem to be fairly young.
Maybe the older people have been cold. They've been sent home. Who knows? Okay.
to assemble again for the Watchtower study. Of course, the decision to be vaccinated is a personal one. What factors might a Christian consider in making the decision? Number one, as Jehovah's Witnesses, we do not have a religious objection to vaccination.
Whereas they do have a religious objection to other things that are medical,
Yeah.
obviously.
Number
and-
two,
Sorry, you just flipped a V there. That's rather rude. Sorry, what were you going to say, Hayden?
Well, I fully expect Sam here to do that to a lot of apostates. No, that's all right. Did you want to go through the 3 points that he says? Because I have a couple of
Yeah, let's play the
things
3
about that.
points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
making the decision. Number one, as Jehovah's Witnesses, we do not have a religious objection to vaccination. Number two, we're in the midst of a pandemic. As of July 9, over 19,000 of our dear brothers and
19,000.
sisters have died from the virus. Number three, in some lands, the superior authorities have made laws requiring all of their citizens to be vaccinated. In other lands, the superior authorities have not made laws, but they are strongly encouraging their citizens to be vaccinated.
So those were the 3 points, I think, were they?
Yeah. It's interesting because so he says at the start the decision to be vaccinated is a personal one, and then he goes through these 3 points to be considered whether to be vaccinated. But it's interesting because there was a letter that was dated December 19, 2020 to bodies of elders which said, we can confirm that the COVID-19 vaccine manufactured by Modern, which I think might be, that's not the Pfizer one, that's the other one, I think, does not contain blood fractions. Medical care is a matter for personal decision. We do not attempt to make choices for others. But they had to write a letter to say this does not contain blood fractions. So if it's a personal decision and they don't attempt to make choices for others, I would say, well, what happens if it did have blood fractions in them? We'd be having an entirely different conversation. Samuel Hurd will probably be sitting there saying, you can't have this vaccine, or you need to weigh up the blood policy on this vaccine as opposed to this one which doesn't have blood fractions in it, for instance, depending on whatever health authorities are recommending for people. It's just it's just a bit doubtful that they don't make choices for other people.
And for me as well, so the 3 things are, number 1, there's no religious objection. Well, there shouldn't be a 2 and a 3. It's either, is there a religious objection or not? So the 1 is sufficient. But then he goes, number 2, we're in the middle of a pandemic and 19,000 Jehovah's Witnesses have died. So apparently the mortality, or shall we say the deadliness of the pandemic, is a factor for Jehovah's Witnesses to consider in whether they accept the vaccine or not, to which you might say, well, why isn't the deadliness of not accepting a blood transfusion in some cases not also a factor?
Yeah.
You know?
They seem to respect life when it comes to the vaccine and the pandemic now, but they're not doing it in respect to blood transfusions.
Exactly. And then he says the thing about in some countries it's being strongly encouraged for people to take the vaccine. Well, in plenty of countries it's also strongly encouraged for child abuse to be reported. But you're not doing that, are you?
Yeah.
So why are you so... Isn't it interesting how a pandemic that is disproportionately wiping out people of Sam Hurd's age and maybe slightly younger, suddenly that's an area in which they can abide by the recommendations of the authorities. But if it's something that doesn't directly threaten literally their lives and it instead puts children in jeopardy, suddenly it's a case of, oh, well, we'll decide whether to act upon the recommendations of whichever country we're in. So
yeah, and there's a couple of other things here because I got some stats which I'll go into, but actually just on that, he also, when he said there's 3 factors that we need to consider, there's also, like you said, there are other factors that he didn't point out, which is the most basic, which is if you have pre-existing health conditions, speak with your GP or your doctor. But he doesn't mention that. I mean, here in Australia, there's a big talk of what vaccine to get, because one of them, which is known here, I'm not sure worldwide, but known here as AstraZeneca.
Yeah, that's the vaccine. Yeah,
which can lead to blood clots. And there was even a man in his 40s here that passed away in the last few days due to that, and that's terrible. But he doesn't mention that and say you should go and speak with your GP, speak with your healthcare provider. And he sort of, and this is, Stephen Lett did this too in 2020 when he spoke about how many deaths there had been. He sort of glossed over it like it was just a number, he just said 19,000 have died, and he didn't offer any condolences or any, he didn't really care. He didn't say we feel for the families that have lost loved ones, and then that would probably have been a good time to give a scripture that would have comforted people, but he just decided to just gloss straight over the numbers. And I did a couple of numbers here, and there was the service report from last year said there was 8.5 million witnesses, so 19,000 is 0.225%. Now the worldwide population, which figures I got, was at the moment was 4.14 million deaths from COVID. So if you factor that in with the pandemic, then you get, with 7.8 billion people, it's 0.052%. So JW figures are 4 times higher.
Sorry, so did you say 0.225% for JWs and 0.052%
for the world? For the world, yeah. So that sort of tells you that the population of active Jehovah's Witnesses is aging. I suspect that number is so high because that they have vulnerable people to this virus. And I think Sam Hurd knows that, and that's why they are continually putting out these updates, because it is a concern for Jehovah's Witnesses who are in that age bracket who are vulnerable to the virus. Yeah. It's just staggering that 4 times higher than, and this is a problem. I mean, 19,000 deaths is terrible, and I know that, and we feel for everybody who has lost someone to the virus. So
indeed,
yeah.
We just don't limit our sympathy just to Jehovah's Witnesses. Our sympathies go to everyone who's affected, including Jehovah's Witnesses. Mason has sent through a super chat. Of course, they used to be very against vaccines, but you can't find those articles on JW Online. Indeed, there is a very, very embarrassing history of medical quackery and speaking out against vaccines in the literature, which you would do well to address if you're suddenly going to speak in favour of vaccines, just in case anyone is going to who has access to the older publications, just in case they're going to feel tempted to consult that material. And also thank you to the Shunned Experience for that super sticker. Thank you.
At least you can say, I suppose, that credit where credit is due, and that it does seem that the tone of what Sam Hurd's saying about vaccines is he's pushing a very pro-vaccine agenda here, which is good, because
It's good, yeah.
That is good. So I am glad that they did bring this up, and that it is done in that tone. I mean, there's obviously points that we've picked out where it could have been better, but at least they are saying, they're not just glossing over it and going, vaccines, well, make your own choice. It does sound very pro-vaccine, and that's the only way that people are going to be protected. So,
and to stress the point again, I think there's a reason for that, and that's because the people who are in charge of this organisation are in the demographic that's most at risk. So, yeah.
But they're probably also too most isolated as well.
Yes, indeed. True. Okay, so let's proceed.
We each must weigh such factors when making our own personal decision. Continue to take reasonable precautions in accord with local conditions, especially if you have health problems or you're up in years. Stay in touch with direction coming from the local health authorities, and be careful. In this update, I'd like to talk with all of you older ones. I'm an older person myself.
No.
I'm going to turn 87 before too long. When I was 20 or 30 years old, I had no idea I'd still be around at 87.
We had that
Many
feeling
of you
5
probably
years
feel
ago.
the same way. But here we are now. And just like Ecclesiastes chapter 12 says, the days of distress have come. Our bodies are slowing down. We've lost the youth we used to have. We can't see or hear too well.
I'm glad he's pointed to his eye and ear so that we can understand what he means by seeing and hearing. That is helpful.
Well, and this is the thing. Every time we get these updates or we get the governing body on camera, they talk to people like they're 5 years old and they don't know what you're talking about. I like it how he says there. He says he's 87 soon, and he said at 20 or 30 years old he had no idea that he'd be still around at 87. Even a governing body member can't believe that Jove is taking so long. That's all I got out of that. And
Drop.
I sort of worked out too, 1975, he would have been around 40. So he would have really been he would have been at that point where he would have been, the world is ending soon. I'm not going to live past 40 because it's ending right now. And here he is nearly 50 years later, and he's still just, he looks tired though, doesn't he?
We were talking about this off camera. He looks like he's lost the will to live for me. It was interesting in the graduation where he couldn't be bothered even pronouncing the names of Gilead's students. And it looks like everything is an effort for him to the point where you're just thinking, you don't have to do this. I'm sure you could get behind that massive governing body table, and you could come up with some rule where past the age of 85 you can just be like an honorary member who sits in on certain meetings and can disappear for days at a time if needed.
Yeah.
But he seems to he seems to be putting himself in an obviously uncomfortable position, probably because he wants the position because he doesn't want to give up the power, but he doesn't necessarily enjoy what the position entails anymore.
And I mean, Gerard Loesch too. He's I think is he the oldest? I think
it's going to be between him and Sam, isn't it?
Yeah. So Gerard is also in a similar boat when he appears on camera too. He seems to be flat, and I think there's also been. I think there was concern about his health as well. So yeah, you're right. They sort of they very much appeal to the older demographic though. Having them there, so I can see why they've kept them there and why they keep appearing on camera. But yeah, he just doesn't seem like he's interested in being there.
Clarissa says, be fair, I wouldn't talk to my 5-year-old like that. My kid is smart enough to know you see with your eyes and hear with your ears, infantile level. Yeah, he's specifically addressing older people at this point, and he's still talking to them as though they're 5-year-olds. It's quite funny.
Yeah. Yeah, well, actually, it was interesting because I had a counsellor who I was talking to, and I showed them I showed them the Stephen Lett, the Last of the Last Days talk, and within probably the first 45 seconds of watching, she said, "Can you just pause it for a minute?" She says, "Why are they talking to me like I am a child?" And that was just someone who's never seen it ever before, and you know that you can't really get more objective than that.
No, true.
We've got all kinds of health problems. And during the pandemic, we've had to stay shut up in our little old homes for a lot longer than we thought we would.
We've had to stay shut up in our little old homes. How does he know all old Jehovah's Witnesses are living in, quote, little old homes?
And I like it how he brands himself with them as well. Like, what he really should be doing is he should be, I kicked back in my penthouse in Bethel.
In my womb chair, which we know he has.
Yeah, that's right. And you know, there's a lot of comment about his Rolex watch as well. And, you know, I just watch the time fly by and all this other
Polish
stuff.
my Rolex on my womb chair.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't really had to worry too much because he lives in a place where he gets everything brought to him. He gets everything provided to him. So I don't like it how he said we and branded himself in that. He should have said you. But even little old homes, that's just, you know.
Yeah, his message is we're in this together when clearly we're not. Clearly there's a bit of a difference here.
Yeah.
And it may be that one or two of us have felt that God has just thrown us away, that he's just not interested in old people after our youth is gone. We know he's going to take care of us. We're going to get everlasting life. But right now, we feel like we're kind of on our own. But I'd like to remind you of something found in the Bible. You know, at one time, most likely David thought that Jehovah had left him. That's the reason why he said what is recorded at Psalm 71, verse 9. Do not cast me off in my old age. Do not abandon me when my strength fails. But we know that Jesus mentioned David in his teaching because hundreds of years later, after David's death, Christ talked about David. So Jehovah didn't throw him away.
Didn't Jehovah literally kill David's kid? Have I remembered my Bible correctly? When they had the affair with David and Bathsheba, one of the penalties was that the resulting baby literally be slaughtered by God.
Yeah.
So
he really remembered David, didn't he? He remembered exactly what he did.
But as long as he remembered David,
I mean, he also says, how do you personally know? He directs to his audience, how do you personally know that Jehovah has not thrown you away? Well, they don't get that choice to think about that because he gives them the answer. They don't get to objectively look at that question and say, maybe it's because he doesn't exist. This is the reason why, because he remembered a bunch of Bible characters that were written by people, and he goes in a little bit more detail, and I've got a comment that I put down about that as well. And
we'll let him proceed.
That's for sure. And he's going to remember David even more in the resurrection. And he hasn't really thrown any of us away either, even though we may feel that he has at times. How do you know that? How do you personally know that Jehovah has not thrown you away? Well, let's think about it. How many of you know how old Methuselah was when he died?
Was he, hang on, I know this.
900.
Was he? No, don't tell me. Was he?
Oh.
I think I know the correct answer. Was he really old? We'll see whether that's the correct answer.
Oh.
You probably learned that a long time ago. You know the answer. He was really old.
Yes!
You got it.
I got it.
You got it. Really
Fantastic.
old.
He was really old.
Can
I
you
knew
show,
it.
Sam, can you tell us how old he was? Can
The
you?
oldest one mentioned among imperfect humans in the Bible.
I knew he was really
No, you
old.
can't.
How many of you know how old Noah was when he started to build the ark? He was well over 500 years old.
Oh, now this isn't fair. Now we're getting into specifics. How come Noah gets specifics, but Methuselah doesn't?
Poor Methuselah, he doesn't get a shout out about how old he was, but Noah gets he was 500.
And I love the point on Harrison's channel, The Truth Hurts, where he points out that Noah was like an insane age. Was it like 280 or something when he had his first child? And Harrison makes the point that it would have been physically impossible in the time before contraceptives to live for more than 2 centuries with a functioning reproductive system and not have progeny, you know.
That's some pretty good self-control by now.
It is.
200 years.
Yeah.
I'm actually glad you brought that out, because that was one of the things that I wrote down was, if you actually want facts about Noah's Ark, then suggest watching Harrison's video, because it is excellent on the topic and he covers pretty much everything, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, he poor Methuselah, he just got left out, shoved to the back.
But at least we know he was really old, which is the most important thing.
No,
Spiritual
he was
food here.
Really old.
Spiritual
That's what he was.
food. It's
Yeah.
quality stuff. It's gourmet.
That shows us that God remembers us when we're old.
No, it doesn't.
The Christian Greek scriptures also tell us about the prophetess Anna, who was 84 years
And this is actually what she looked like. This isn't just an artist imagining what the prophetess looked like. This is actually what the prophetess Hannah looked like.
That's the picture hanging up in their boardroom, isn't it? That might be the painting.
I think that's the other wall.
Oh,
But seriously, this is a personal gripe of mine when they put a picture up on the screen of a Bible character that's clearly just either a Bethelite posing or the artist just literally imagining someone with a beard or someone or a lady in old ancient clothing. The way they put this as though, no, this is what they looked like, is really, really frustrating, because it's a very disingenuous way of fooling the audience into thinking that they are real, definitely real historical characters when they are not necessarily, you know.
yeah, that's right. And I made that comment there when he says this shows us that God remembers us when they're old. Not really. All that it shows us is that there's conveniently placed stories put in the Bible to manipulate people throughout all time. That's really all it teaches us.
Indeed.
prophetess Anna, who was 84 years old.
David says she had a good dentist.
How do we know she was 84 years old? It's in the inspired scriptures. If Jehovah didn't want us to know her age, he wouldn't have put it in there.
It must be true because it's in the Bible.
So in the Bible, it must say Methuselah
Hashtag
was...
circular reasoning.
Oh dear. And it's at that point too about beards and things as well. I just love it how they'll easily put worldly people today with beards, and then what they'll do is they'll have a picture on the next page of Jesus with a beard. But there's if you're a Jehovah's Witness, there's two class distinctions between the two. There's bad and then there's good. But then it's like, what's the identifying feature? Well, usually it's the beard on the face. It's a real gripe of mine that they do that.
Woody. Now, doesn't that tell us something? Jehovah keeps track of age, and he's interested in us older ones. Psalm 90 comes right out and says that imperfect men live to be maybe 70 or 80 years old. And even then, those years are filled with trouble. So Jehovah put all that in there for us to know that he has not thrown us away, that he remembers us.
I like the way he did the crazy sign.
I only just saw that. I just noticed that then. Why
He
is doing
remembers
that?
us.
He remembers us. What?
Even those of us who were a little bit crazy.
So he's I'm looking at you, Tony.
We're so proud of you. Many of you have learned to use Zoom and mute and unmute yourself. I'm still learning to use Zoom. You've tackled telephone witnessing and letter writing. It's amazing to see how fast you did it.
No, it's not.
Clearly, Jehovah has been with you and has strengthened you. That's what he promises at Psalm 29:11. Jehovah will give strength to his people. Jehovah will bless his people with peace.
This is a Bible prophecy about Zoom, if you're just joining us.
He loves to just slip a little joke in there, doesn't he? Like, mute and unmute. And it's like, yep. So you're still learning, cool. We understand that. But then he's like,
He's like, I know the technical words too. I know those
like,
words.
oh, I know how to put my hand up.
Don't even get me started on breakout rooms.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm
dear.
just starting to learn the chat too. He goes on about telephone and letter writing, saying how it's amazing how fast they did it, and I'm like, it's not really, because they've always done it.
Yeah.
They've always done letter writing. and
Imagine
telephone
learning how
witnessing.
to write a letter. That's
And-
keeping up with the times, isn't it?
And it's literally easier to write a letter and telephone than to go out. Speaking from personal experience, it's a lot easier to do that.
Some of you old ones have learned how to write letters and operate a telephone.
So, yeah, I'm not. Yeah, well, that'll be the next sign, isn't it? I just learned how to send a text message.
Oh, good grief.
Through his whole pandemic, we've seen evidence that Jehovah has continued to give us strength and to bless us with peace. That's why nothing has stopped the kingdom work from moving forward. A good example of that is our theocratic construction. You may be wondering how the pandemic has affected the worldwide construction work.
I wasn't.
Not to mention
but go on.
all the work normally done to maintain our kingdom halls. Did everything just stop? Well, when the pandemic first hit, we did suspend most new construction and renovation so that the construction servants and volunteers could shelter in place. Our first concern was the safety of the thousands of volunteers working full-time with local design construction. Of course, many of those brothers and sisters serve far from their families and friends, so sheltering in place hasn't been easy. What has helped them to cope with the loneliness and isolation?
I'm going to guess it's something to do with keeping up a good spiritual routine. Just going to throw that out there. But isn't it interesting how there's this claim, or this thinly veiled suggestion, that the only way that they could achieve anything is with God's Spirit? You know, they're literally talking here about building stuff.
Yeah.
And, you know, last I checked, you know, lots of individuals and organizations have been building stuff through the pandemic. And in fact, we even learned that one of the examples that he's going to point to has been achieved because they brought contractors in.
Yes.
Well, how is that?
Yeah.
How is that anything to be boasting about? That's
Yeah.
that's not evidence of Jehovah's hand. You're literally pointing to the most mundane thing possible and using that as evidence that Jehovah is uniquely blessing this organization.
Yeah, I actually, just as you were saying that, I was writing that down because I remembered and I wanted to bring it out when he spoke about it. But he says, when we've seen evidence that Jehovah has given us strength and we have seen evidence that Jehovah has given us strength and peace. But I ask him, well, where's that evidence? Where was Jehovah for those 19,000 who lost their lives? he points to construction work and says, we've been blessed here. But what about, why is the death rate 4 times higher than the rest of the world? Why is he not blessing his people? And I know the answer, time and unforeseen occurrence, and we can't control that. But he makes these claims, and then also, and we'll learn a little bit more about construction later, but it was only just a little over a year ago that Stephen Lett was saying that we're living in the final part of the last days, the final part of the final part of the last days before the last day of the last days. So they seem very keen to push ahead with this construction work, even though they've told Jehovah's Witnesses we're living in the last days. This is the end, but they've got all these construction work projects coming up, and they showed the B-roll footage of the Kingdom Hall with the lights going out, and I feel like that's probably going to start happening more and more as the years go on. Lights are going to start going out in Kingdom Halls, and they're going to start transferring them and either keep migrating them and merging them, or just do away with them altogether, because it's just unsustainable.
Indeed. Thanks to Huston Mises for your very generous super chat. Lloyd, this is what I used to put on the donation box for the Watchtower regional indoctrination speeches, never more. Thank you so much. The support of the channel is very much appreciated. Let's listen to more of what Mr. Hurd has to say.
Listen to their comments in the following video.
The brothers organized frequent shepherding visits by video conference. During these visits, they asked me how I was doing physically, emotionally, and spiritually. I appreciate so very much that they were thinking about me, and they chose specific Bible texts to share with me.
So during the pandemic, I was assigned a field service group to oversee, and this gave me more opportunities to assist new publishers in maintaining good personal Bible study habits, and also train brothers to reach out for more responsibilities.
So I'm not able to visit my family in Europe, but I often call them and I share encouraging thoughts with them. I also like helping young ones in the ministry. It is not easy for them to preach during this pandemic, but preaching together boosts all of us. And by giving, I felt Jehovah's blessings. For example, brothers and sisters have been checking up on my husband and I, and have been an emotional support during this lockdown. Without them knowing, their texts, calls, and other caring deeds have made things easier for us.
I kind of don't buy into this whole idea of they're doing all of this just for me. You know, the elders are calling to find out about how I'm doing and about my spiritual routine just to benefit me. It's not at all to make sure that I'm not drifting away from the organization at this time, unique time in the organization's history where we can no longer meet together, you know?
Yeah. And so, yeah, I think it's Wakako, I think that's how you pronounce it, from Bolivia, when she said about those shepherding visits, I appreciate so very much they were thinking about me. No, they were thinking about keeping you in line, making sure that you're indoctrinated and staying that way. And the same too with, I think it's Swana and Celine from Zambia. Good personal Bible study habits and training brothers for more responsibilities. Again, it's just trying to keep witnesses in line. And she says towards the end there, brothers and sisters have been checking up on us and provide emotional support. And that's an example of Jehovah's blessing. But that happens all over the world. So when we're in the middle of the pandemic, they're people that they dedicate their lives to helping people, save people from the virus and to make sure that people are okay. And we've got professional mental health care people who their job is to make sure that people are okay. So it's nothing that's really special or unique to Jehovah's Witnesses. It's not really an example of a blessing. So.
Indeed.
But I think all I got out of that was just, they're trying to make witnesses know that if someone says, if the elders say we want to come over for a shepherding visit, that they need to accept that, which if you ever say no to a shepherding visit, automatically the red flags go up by elders because you're not you're not falling into line. You need this. You need this.
And again, it's obviously in the interests of the organisation to keep tabs on people when everyone's isolated and they can no longer have the love bombing. So I don't buy into this whole, they're doing it just for my benefit.
Well, last year, the fall of 0.6%, it's going to be very interesting in the next service year.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
What it's going to be, because I feel like that they have battled to try and keep people stay in, because, once the novelty of Zoom wore off, people were starting to realise, well, I've got a lot of free time on my hands during meetings, and I think I think you mentioned this the other day when we were speaking about how with the conventions all being on Zoom and online, people don't pay as much attention as they do. They might go out and work through their home or do something, and they're not paying attention to the program. And that's exactly what the governing body have had for years, is people going to conventions. You're in a venue, you're listening, you have to listen to the program. It's very hard to it's not very hard, but it's harder to tune out of what the speaker's actually saying. Whereas at home, you've got so many distractions that you can have. So I think that the level of ability to indoctrinate has been definitely
compromised.
Had a hit there.
Yeah. Huge thanks again to Huston Mises, who is lavishing me with super chats. Let me play a trumpet in front of me. Watchtower must go down. Well, I certainly appreciate, again, the very, very generous support of the channel. I might say that it's all hands on deck at the moment on the Lloyd Evans channel, keeping up with the convention rebuttals, which so far we're able to do, and it's because of the support of so many viewers and patrons and backers. So thank you so much. Now, let's continue with Samuel Hurd's video.
Did you notice what helped them maintain a positive outlook? Encouraging shepherding visits and staying busy with spiritual activities. So even though they couldn't work as much on branch projects or build kingdom halls, they could build up their spirituality and encourage others, and that's exactly what they did. Now, we said earlier that most construction had to stop for a while because of the virus.
No, you said earlier.
But did that mean everything stopped? Not at all. We were able to keep making progress on a number of branch projects. One example is the new branch property in Argentina. The project faced many delays because of the pandemic, but with Jehovah's help, our brothers were able to work through them with the assistance of contractors.
Yeah, there we go.
And now the Bethel family has started to move in.
The brothers were able to work through with the assistance of contractors. Do you not mean the contractors were able to do the work for the brothers? In other words, Satan's system of things coming to the rescue.
I feel like there's a lot of projects like that happen with the assistance of contractors, because there's a lot of things that they can't do in-house in the organisation, and they have to rely on people to help. So, yeah, I don't know whether that was a slip or someone's let that in, but same too with Zoom. Satan's system comes to the rescue. Contractors, Satan's system comes to the rescue, but no, it's all from Jehovah, apparently.
I'm sure this refrigerator that they're loading onto a van has been lovingly handmade by brothers and sisters somewhere. Oh, no, actually, no, it's probably just a product that they've bought. So.
Taking strict precautions against COVID-19. They'll finish moving into the new facility in the weeks to come. But how have our other design and construction teams kept the work moving? Let's hear from a few of them.
The Worldwide Design Construction Training Desk recognized the opportunity to sharpen the awareness of safety among all who participate in theocratic construction and maintenance projects. So because of this, a safety training course for overseers was rolled out globally. About 7,500 responsible brothers benefited from this via video conference. a brother from Belgium said, "I now recognize that safety is an extension to my spirituality."
Here in Africa, the pandemic has emphasized the need to better prepare our kingdom halls in health and hygiene for our brothers and sisters. Solutions such as hand washing stations, limiting physical touch points, and other hygiene related needs are being addressed.
Did they just suggest that in some kingdom halls people can't wash their hands?
Yeah.
What did he say there? Hang on, I need to hear that
Just
again.
actually, while you've got it paused there.
Sorry, go on, yeah.
No, that's all right. I was going to say over his shoulder, it looked like he had a little bit of a flowchart of the use of the term responsible brothers. They love to use that term, and he had a flowchart in the back. And I thought
Authorized.
Yeah, that's right.
We'll only keep your data, we'll only circulate it among authorized brothers.
Here in Africa, the pandemic has emphasized the need to better prepare our kingdom halls in health and hygiene for our brothers and sisters. Solutions such as hand washing stations, limiting physical touch points, and other hygiene related needs are being addressed.
That to me seems like a very clever way of saying, oops, our kingdom halls in South Africa weren't hygienic enough, and this has been exposed by the pandemic. You know, if the kingdom halls had already been hygienic enough, you can imagine them saying, here's evidence of Jehovah's hand. We built our kingdom halls this way so that we were over prepared, and then when the pandemic came, it turned out that there were no problems because our kingdom halls were already totally hygienic and there were hand washing points and all that sort of thing. This is just, for me, a clever way of saying we were caught short, basically.
Yeah, and again, where did they get that advice from? They didn't come up with it themselves. They're only starting to act on it after they received advice from health authorities. So it seems like they love to portray that they're one step ahead in JW broadcastings, but they're actually probably 2 steps behind, really, on what's actually happening.
Indeed.
The local design construction departments are also busy planning for future projects and doing essential Kingdom Hall maintenance and repairs. And in areas where conditions have allowed it, some branches have even been able to start new projects with a limited number of construction servants. Our thanks go out to all of you construction volunteers who keep giving generously of yourselves as you...
I feel like the chap, let's have a look at this. The chap, sort of middle row, slightly to the right, didn't get the memo about having a shower before coming on this.
Oh, I saw that when I was looking through it, and I didn't write a note down. I was going to bring it up if you did, but yeah, he's...
Poor chap, yeah.
Poor bloke.
He'll be annoyed about this. Why didn't anyone tell me I had to shower? Come on.
He's like, oh, they're not using that footage again, are they?
Poor guy. Poor guy.
Dear,
We've all been there.
You work hard on projects and care for your local Kingdom
He looks
Halls.
like the only one that's worked hard.
So what does all of this
The rest are worldly contractors, probably.
Yeah.
show us? Jehovah's chariot has not stopped, and all of us, old and young, want to keep pace with it as we face the days ahead. We'll continue to take a cautious approach that shows respect for life and keeps the kingdom work going.
Shows respect for life and keeps the kingdom work going. I'm sorry, this is not an organization that shows respect for life, especially when it's sending in elders to people's bedsides to basically hurry them down the road to martyrdom whenever blood's an issue, and insisting on refusing medical care to children of Jehovah's Witnesses when they need blood. This is not an organization that shows respect for life.
No. And again, he's using that. This is, what did he say? This take a cautious approach. And he's very condescending with some of the remarks that he's made.
And there was that old keep pace with Jehovah's chariot. Jehovah's chariot hasn't stopped. We need to keep pace with it.
Like their buildings, it probably needs maintenance every now and then. No, it's the wheels are coming off, I think.
I think so. Definitely.
We don't know exactly when this pandemic will end,
What?
but we know this.
They don't?
Oh,
Stephen Lett definitely knows the answer.
Surely it's in the King of the North, King of the South prophecy. Yeah. Everything else is in there. Even Russia's in there.
Yeah, don't worry. Stephen Lett knows when it is. And Sam Hurd, obviously, when he was at that governing body meeting, didn't get the memo when it's coming. He's missed that one.
But we know this. Jehovah will continue to provide the guidance we need to get through it.
Through the World Health Organization.
Yeah.
We want you to know that we love you and pray for Jehovah's blessing on all you do to serve him faithfully.
That seems sincere.
From the world headquarters of Jehovah's Witnesses, this is JW Broadcasting.
He's got a smile on his face at the end there because
he had a bit of pep in his step towards the end.
He's finally got to the end. He's like, I'm done. But yeah, it's really, really hard to take it seriously when he's saying that, we send our sincere love and all that sort of thing, when he's literally reading the words off an auto cue and reading them badly because of the pacing of what he's saying,
And just the monotone in the voice, like it was like he was slumped back in the chair going, "We love all of you," and it's like, well, it doesn't really feel like it. And then he's like, "From the world headquarters," and then he's just got this pep in his step, like it was over. And he's not sending the right messages there. Sorry, Sammy, you're not sending the right messages there.
What we're going to do now that we've had expert input, expert commentary from Mr. Honeywood. Is we are going to have a viewer invasion. Unfortunately, producer Bob isn't with us at the moment, but I can still drop in a link to join us here on the StreamYard interface. Here is the link now going into the live chat. And all I ask is that you observe the rules that you can see it on the bottom there. Please show your camera. Please keep comments and questions respectful and on topic. The reason why we say please show your camera is basically a measure to deter trolls, because trolls don't tend to like to be seen on camera. So we have our first visitor. Welcome to Shazza Live. Welcome, Shazza Live.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Pretty good. I'm not upside down this time. Last time.
I remember you were the upside down lady. Of course. You went down in legend after that one.
Indeed.
Yeah.
The gravity round is just no good, It's...
Absolutely. People thought you were on the space station or something, but
my secret's out there.
Or in Australia.
Yeah. So what did you think of the governing body update number 6?
Well, to be quite honest, it's quite farcical, isn't it? These people, I just have no words, to be quite honest. That was good, wasn't it? I came on, I've got no words.
Okay. Well, at least you're the right way up.
This is
but
true.
It's safe to say you are rendered speechless.
Sorry about this. My makeup's falling off or something.
That's okay. Well, yeah, important to keep things on there. But thank you so much for joining us. And if you don't mind, we'll take another caller. But lovely to see the cameras the right way up this time. And we duly note that you are rendered speechless.
You have a good one, Lloyd. Take care of yourself.
Take care. Bye. See you. And we also have Sam. Welcome, Sam.
Hey, Lloyd. Thanks for having me on. Very interesting video, to say the least. I'm a long-time watcher, and I appreciate you taking me in. One thing I did have, and forgive me, I have nothing but the utmost respect for you. And, of course, now my dog is squeaking a toy in the background. I have nothing but the utmost respect, especially for all the advocacy that you do. I do have one small piece of constructive criticism that I think would be beneficial as far as separating yourself further from the organization as a whole. And this is just something I've noticed as I've gone through a lot of your videos, is that you do the kind of the same thing that a lot of the governing body members do. And please don't take offense to that. Holy crap, please don't take offense to that. I know, right?
Is this on topic, by the way? This is to do with governing body update number 6.
It's close.
Well, if it's not, if it's seriously, dude, if it's not to do with governing body update number 6, that's the whole point of the viewer invasion, and it's even scrolling along the bottom. To be fair,
my apologies. Then I will leave that off of this chat. My apologies for joining, but I will take the rest of it.
Feel
off.
free to drop it in the comments. That'd be brilliant. Okay, thank you. Yeah, seriously, that sort of. I mean, everyone has their own ideas about what I should be doing and how I should be doing my activism, and that's fine. It's just that that's what the comments are for in the videos, or if and I always leave those sorts of comments so long as they're not abusive. And this gentleman didn't seem to be in any way abusive.
The joys of live television, folks.
That's the first time we've had. That's the first time we've had someone that wasn't following the rules. We have to have these rules where the comment has to be on topic. It's not just here's your opportunity to vent your frustrations at how I'm doing my activism. I'm sorry to disappoint you.
Any constructive criticism in the comments is the place for that sort of stuff.
Exactly. We welcome Joanna. Welcome, Joanna.
Hey!
Is it Joanna or Johanna? I don't want to pronounce.
It's Johanna.
Johanna. Okay, thank you. Lovely to see you with us, Johanna.
Yeah, nice to see you too.
What did you think of governing body update number 6?
First of all, I can't stand that guy. He's the worst. Well, Stephen Lett is the worst, but he's the worst. But I thought it was really interesting how much they were talking about, how much he was talking about COVID. And I think about, like my mom. So my mom is 73. And when we were all getting the vaccine here, my aunt had a kind of a connection for us to get it. And, she's not one of Jehovah's Witnesses, and she tried to get my mom in, and my mom was like, "Oh no, I'm gonna wait. And she had my sister, who is one of Jehovah's Witnesses, do it for her, get her the appointment. So it's just, I worried whether or not she was even going to get it because, I just really worried, and I'm glad that they are taking the stance that they are with the vaccines. And I've been past the local Kingdom Hall, and I don't think they're even back there yet.
Yeah, well, that's worth pointing out, isn't it? And I think, Hayden, you would agree with this, that although there are things that we, justifiably disagree with the organization on when it comes to their COVID handling, off the top of my head, doomsday fear-mongering and, making people think Armageddon is here because of the pandemic. We could have done without that, thank you. But when it comes to social distancing, closing the Kingdom Halls, and at least speaking positively about vaccines, that's something that I'm sure we can all say we're glad about, because that sort of thing saves lives, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And the other thing that I wanted to say, just a quick note, is when he was talking about the writing letters and how amazing it was that everybody could write letters. When I was, back years and years ago when I was pioneering, I would handwrite the same letter over and over and over again to, 50 different people just to make my time. So
at that point, what's stopping you from using just a photocopier? If it's literally word for word the same letter.
I thought about it back then, but then I was like, no, but then it wouldn't be real. Then I would be lying. So I
buy the slowest printing photocopier you could find.
Yeah, just.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm really glad to hear that things have worked out for you, and with your loved ones in terms of the vaccines. And yeah, again, that is one area in which I think we can all be grateful that the organisation have acted responsibly. So yeah, I'm really pleased about that, Johanna.
Well, it was nice talking with you guys.
Lovely to have you on, and hope to have you on again on another viewer invasion in the future.
Yeah, this is awesome. I love it.
Okay, take care.
All right.
And we have a quick thanks to Monica Owens for this very generous super chat. I appreciate you so very much, Lloyd. Your work has helped so many and so much that it's impossible to even quantify. Sending love and gratitude. Thank you so much. Monica is actually one of the patrons and frequently being generous in terms of supporting the channel. So thank you so much, Monica. We have Crossroads Circle. Welcome.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Not bad at all. That is an impressive tapestry behind you.
Oh, thanks. I got it from a friend. She it's a long story. She called me to her house because she sat on a fish tank on her porch. It's smashed, and she was like, "Oh, my butt's cut. So come check my butt out and see if it's bad." Me and my
We've all been there. We've all been asked to
really weird
inspect
scenario,
people's bottoms. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
So, what
but
did you
I came
think
back
of?
with 2 of these.
What did you think of governing body update number 6?
Well, I don't know. Like pretty much the governing body, like what they're doing, or how they're approaching every situation that's a current event is like they want to be their own, governing body. It's just they're just such a flaccid and like incompetent version of what that would be. And it's, like you guys said, they're like 2 steps behind everything. They just regurgitate things that make sense. And in a way, I'm happy that that's the case because, they're actually not, they could be denying the vaccine altogether, So.
And I could easily imagine them doing that, by the way. I could easily imagine them saying, we have a command from God to meet together. And this situation here is a test, so we need to leave it in Jehovah's hands, and we need to obey God's command to meet. I could easily imagine them doing that, so I'm really grateful that they didn't do that. Yeah,
I'm grateful for that too. I mean, sometimes I joke around and I'm like, is Jehovah's Witnesses or are Jehovah's Witnesses the best conservative Christian movement? And I say that because all conservative Christian theocratic movement, right? Because they don't get involved in politics. You know what I mean?
That's but I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't go that far. Good
well,
God.
I mean,
not with the shunning and the child abuse cover-ups.
If they're going to be conservative, which is already going to be in a way with Bible literalist in a way. You know what I mean? If they're going to be Bible literalist, which is already so like there's so many things in the Bible that are just disgusting and abhorrent, right? But if you're going to be a literalist, you might as well not vote. That's another thing that I'll give them. Everything else is terrible, completely terrible.
Well, listen, I really appreciate you calling in, and hopefully we'll have you on another viewer invasion in the future.
Yeah,
take care, Crossroads Circle.
Yeah, thanks
Pleasure.
for everything. Thanks for everything.
Thank you so much. And we also have Chris. Welcome, Chris.
Hey there, guys.
How's it
Thanks
going?
for having me. Pretty good, pretty good. I watched the governing body update here because I had a relative that was telling me, you got to go see the governing body 6 update. Like, things are moving in the organization, things are changing. And I've watched it now and I'm like, okay, so witnesses are dying by COVID way more than everyone else. Okay, things are moving for sure. I just got to say, I wasn't that impressed. And you're right about your comments on the presenter's attitude. And he just didn't seem like he wanted to be there. So
all of the information could have just been in a written update, couldn't it? There was absolutely nothing that was like, oh wow, I'm so glad I saw this on video, because it was so much more. This is like a really jaw-dropping piece of information. All of it could have just been like on the newsroom, in like a written blog post, couldn't it? There wasn't really anything to write home about.
Yeah, I think that they are really trying to hold on to people, and that element of fear is really doing that. I think that's one of the reasons my relative was very much trying to push me back. He's like, there's no time left. Things are moving, like the world is ending. And I have some friends who aren't related to the witnesses at all, and they feel like doomsday stuff is going on. And so I feel like they're really trying to push on that to get people to both stay and also to return. And it just has me worried. When you think the world is literally going to end, what won't you do?
Have you noticed a difference with your believing relatives in terms of how devout they are? Would you say they are more devout since the pandemic began, or less devout, or the same?
That's hard to say. This is kind of a weird thing to say, but I think my relative is the directed audience of these broadcasts. They're not particularly educated. They're not particularly amazing native English speakers, for instance. And it seems like they're not critical thinkers at all. And so they pretty much just take whatever the broadcast says, the Watchtower says, and just repeat it verbatim without having any lick of evidence to back up those statements. And so, for example, was talking about historicity of the Bible and things like that. I won't go into it because it's not really the topic of this update, but it just seemed like they weren't willing to see what the scholarly community had to say unless Watchtower had approved that message and said, yep, this scholarly expert, nobody else agrees with him, but he's this one scholar that sides with us, so obviously it's true. So just kind of to that point.
Sure. I think in my own case, it's almost as though my relatives have kind of gravitated more towards the organization because how can you miss a meeting now? Now that they're all on Zoom, you have to be on every single one of them. But Chris, we're going to let you go, but hopefully you can tune in for a future viewer invasion. And thank you so much for joining us.
I don't know how well this shows up, but I got inspiration from one of your designs. So
let's have a look. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
The Watchtower is falling.
So
fantastic. That's from the Escape.
I just want to say to Chris too, that's some pretty awesome hair you've got going there, man. Too. That's impressive.
That's a strong look.
I took a sow of Samson. I said, until I decide what I believe, I'm not going to cut my hair. So
I've
been searching for the truth ever since. I would like to think so, but I can't prove that one.
We'll take your word for it. We will believe on faith that you are strong, and we'll bid you adieu. We'll see you soon. Take care, Chris. So we have just a couple more to have on today's viewer invasion. We have Mormon Jesus returns. Hello, Mormon Jesus, my favorite of all the Jesuses, it must be said.
Hello there. I'm just dropping in quickly to say something on what you were talking about in the about your video. Was about them not caring that much about lives of others or their free choice when it comes to blood issue. I myself have an uncle who I think is elder. I'm not that sure because I haven't been in contact with them obviously for a few years. But recently I heard through my dad that he's in those people who go to hospital liaison committee or something like that is in English. And heard that he needs to have his phone on at all times because there were already a few cases where he needed to get up in the middle of the night, drive to the hospital, and make sure that the witness was making the right choice. That for me doesn't sound like free choice, or you're free to choose to do whatever you want with your body and your health. If you have somebody who will literally wake up at 3 a.m. or whatever and drive to the hospital making sure that you make the right decision, or to kick you out.
Was this a HLC member by any chance?
Once more?
Was he a HLC member? This gentleman.
Yeah, the ones who go to the hospital to help them.
Wow. Yeah, it's there's again, it's very obvious why they're making such a big deal about whether vaccines are your choice, your free choice or not, and that's because they do insist on having a say in what medicine you can or can't have, at least in the case of blood transfusion. So having inserted themselves in that area, they have to some degree insert themselves in at least the conversation about whether vaccines are appropriate. So, but yeah, that's it's chilling to think that elders are literally waiting for a call in the middle of the night to go and police the blood issue.
I'm honestly disgusted by being related to him for what he's doing, because I'm not sure. I don't know the details, but he might as well have killed somebody by forcing them to not take the blood transfusion because there was an accident. That's all I heard about the situation.
Yeah, well, when you're at death's door and the chips really are down. I mean, I'm sure we all said as Jehovah's Witnesses there's no way we would accept blood under any circumstances. But you just never know, you know, when the chips really are down and no, you really are going to die like in the next few minutes unless we give you blood. You just never know how you might have a change of heart. And there's at least some documented evidence that witnesses do have a change of heart. But of course, if they have men in suits by the bedside reminding them of the penalties if they do make that decision, yeah, there's a body count attached, isn't there? So
yeah, it is. Well, to live on a happy note, I feel a bit sad to come after that gentleman with lovely hair and well-kept beard. That's the effect of working from home for so long. If you
could make a bit more of an effort with maybe some apparel in future, Mormon Jesus, that would be no. We really appreciate you joining the conversation. Hope to have you on a future Viewer Invasion.
Thank you. See you.
Take care. So it seems we have a couple more. And welcome, Clarissa. How are you, Clarissa?
I'm good. How are you, Lloyd?
I'm very well. Thank you for thank you for the comments earlier.
Yeah. First off, I just want to thank you because I commented on the last video. You helped me wake up my husband because you use mainly the publications, and that's kind of, it doesn't feel as apostate. But what I wanted to say, have you noticed, I've noticed in at least my area, that a lot of witnesses seem to be more anti-vax just in general. I think it's kind of the anti-science thing. So I almost wish that they would take a stronger viewpoint and be like, you can get the vaccine. We're recommending the vaccine. It's your choice, but we're recommending it. Take a little bit of a stronger stance on it, because I do find with the anti-vax within the organization that there are just so many, at least in my area in the U.S.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, again, I can imagine it being much, much worse, but I take your point. The position seems to be, it's your personal choice, and by the way, 98% of the American Bethel family have had it, which is great. But like you say, especially when you have an organization that has historically literally condemned vaccines, you would think it sort of behooves them to take a stronger stance. And I actually know of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses who are anti-vaxxers. That's how kind of deeply ingrained this stuff goes.
Yeah.
It's really unfortunate, but there are people I'm close to who have this strange idea that they know better than scientists in this one area. And so yeah, it would have been nice actually if they could have been a little bit more robust in this, but yeah, I don't know what to say. I'm just grateful, I suppose, that they're sufficiently open to vaccines that, for example, my in-laws have been vaccinated, and I think lots will. But yeah, I take your point. There's room for more, isn't there?
Yeah, they could say it's your choice, but we recommend it, and I think that would get a much higher percentage than just leaving it up to if you want to.
Yeah, it's because it's medicine, isn't it? Ultimately, and so why should it be a bad thing to say we recommend you take life-saving medicine?
Well, and my other thing is they've never said it really, other than in the past when they disallowed vaccines. They haven't said anything recently really about any other vaccine, like measles vaccine, anything like that. Because recently, right before the pandemic, I've seen it in my Facebook memories and stuff recently. I think it was Somalia or another quite impoverished nation was having a really bad measles outbreak, and they were mum on that, oh, look at the vaccine, or the people, the Jehovah's Witnesses in this area are getting all the vaccine and stuff. So they, in areas where there have been other types of outbreaks that are maybe the more common diseases and stuff, they haven't said anything, and I find that kind of this is just
Hayden, you mentioned earlier about the AstraZeneca vaccine and the issues with blood clotting, and I take your point on that. I would only say that you know, I'm now fully vaccinated, and I feel great because of it. I feel like I have so much more freedom, and it's like a load off my shoulders. I was getting genuinely anxious prior to getting vaccinated that I would get vaccinated in time before the damn thing killed me.
Yeah.
And frankly, if it were a choice of here's the AstraZeneca vaccine, Lloyd, or nothing, even with the knowledge of the risk over blood clotting, I would have taken it. I would have rolled the dice, you know?
Yeah, the Johnson & Johnson one here in the States has had some pretty bad side effects, I believe, and stuff. But one of my friends had it, and he's still like, you know, I'm vaccinated. I didn't have it. I feel okay. So,
yeah, we had a similar thing here with the problem in this country is that there's a fear around AstraZeneca, which is unfounded fear because the statistics are so low that you'll get a blood clot.
Well, I just want to say something about the blood clots. If women are on birth control, they have a higher risk of blood clots than they do with the vaccine. So I just want to say that. So just to alleviate people's, if you're okay with being on birth control, or your wife or girlfriend on birth control, it's the same thing.
I read that the other day as well. There was some statistics and facts that come out about AstraZeneca, and I've had my first dose of Pfizer because if you're under 60 here, then you're allocated Pfizer, and I feel the same way too, Lloyd. I feel like I'm now not only protecting myself, but I'm also protecting those around me as well, those especially who are vulnerable. And the good thing is my 5G connectivity's gone right up, so I'm really happy with that.
Well, I'm already autistic, so I got a power up is what happened.
There you go. But isn't it sad how people hold a certain type of medicine to higher standards than they hold other types of medicine or other treatments to? All medical treatments. I mean, if you get almost any medicine over the counter at a pharmacy, you're going to find that, I don't know what it's like in Australia and America, but there's a massive book in there.
Yeah.
and if you actually read it, it's pretty bloody depressing of all the things it can do to you.
Tylenol, but it's like you could die.
And we are gulping that shit down. So why are you holding vaccines to this impossible standard where they're not allowed to have any side effects or any potential problems at all?
I like it how you get the medication that you get the medication for something, and one of the side effects is the thing that you're trying to treat as well.
Yeah. Well, it's actually kind of funny. So I've been in studies and stuff for asthma medicines before. Yeah, and asthma attacks was one of the things, because of course the people in the study are going to have asthma attacks during the testing period because they have asthma. So if they have an asthma attack, but they have to write it down because it happened during the testing period. You know, so that's how it works. It happened during the testing period. This lady had an asthma attack, so now it's on the inhaler.
and before you have a vaccine as well, they run through all of the, like I got a sheet of paper that listed all of the things. If you've got to say if you have this, I think it was anaphylactic, if you've had anaphylaxis before, if you've had a vaccine or something like that. So they go through all of the checks to make sure, and they watch you for 15 minutes afterwards and all of that, so to make sure that you're okay. So
my anxiety will go away when kids can be vaccinated. I'm so anxious because my kids still not vaccinated. I know kids, it's not that bad. I'm sure with Lloyd, I don't know if I'm sorry, I forgot your name. I'm sorry.
Hayden.
Hayden. I'm sorry. If you guys, well, I know Lloyd has kids, but if Hayden has kids, like, because that's my anxiety right now. I know it doesn't affect kids as much, but it's like,
it's tricky. I think they are certainly in where I am. They're working their way through the population, and if the direction comes along, we're recommending it to this age group. I mean, Jessica's still only 7.
Yeah, my son's 5.
If that were the direction and that were the advice, we'd totally do it. But like you say, that's a really good point that they could have done more. They could have maybe gone that extra step, given how deadly this thing is, and with 19,000 Jehovah's Witness deaths.
Are. And like you guys mentioned, how old all the witnesses are. A lot of them, it's just like, I know every hall that I've been in, it's like a bunch of 65-year-olds and up, and maybe a couple 20 something pioneers, but like it's a lot of older people.
Indeed.
And it is unfortunate too, because that sort of is the organisation's future. Is young people are leaving at an alarming rate due to the internet and being educated, and those who are slightly older in years are the ones who are sticking around. But of course, they won't stick around forever. So it's not a very good business model for the organisation.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Clarissa. Really appreciate having you on, and please do join for a future Viewer Invasion if you can. Okay, take care. And we have time for one more in the Viewer Invasion, and that is, you know, of all of the Barons that I know, my favourite one has to be Baron Salami. Welcome, Baron Salami.
Hey, what's up, Lloyd? What's up, Hayden? How are you?
Very well indeed. Good. What did you think of Governing Body Update number 6?
Well, I'm just happy that I don't have to be obligated to see it anymore. So yeah, it wasn't as infuriating as other ones. But I think the thing that annoyed me the most is the infantilization that they tend to do to the viewers. And it's funny that once you are outside of that, you see this as insulting. But when you're inside, I have seen that there are people that like that, or maybe people that lack a parent or a dad, maybe, and they see that as a replacement. So they like that infantilization. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Well, I see and I hear your comment there, Baron Salami. It's a very good point. It's infuriating. And bear in mind, I spend lots and lots of time trawling through this video propaganda. I'm doing it at the moment for the convention. And it's very draining. You know, it can take its toll. Apart from it being emotionally draining because of some of the subject matter, just, you know, hearing grown-ups speaking at that level over a prolonged period is very exhausting.
I imagine. I mean, that would be like... I appreciate, you know, like the work that you do. So thank you for that. And, you know, one last thing that I wanted to say is that it's very interesting, that photo that you put there. What you didn't put, but I think the video was the photo where they are, all of them sitting.
The massive table, yeah.
Oh yes, that looked like something from Doctor Strangelove, you know, like the War Room. It was very interesting. But I don't know if you have more material about that complex. I mean, I know that you have mentioned that lakeside complex, but it seems something, you know, from Scientology or something from those kind of religions, that they have this complex where there are all the people, the heads.
I know a bit about it, and I've been there. I obviously made a documentary about going to Warwick, Warwick: A Journey to My Former Faith, which incidentally is now on over 100,000 views. So, you know, people have seen that, and which is very rewarding. But yeah, I've been on a tour around at least the visitor centre, and I've also seen the lakeside seen it from a lakeside perspective, or from the.
And
water.
you didn't see that painting of what it was. That expensive painting.
Well, I obviously didn't go in the governing body. I'd love to go in there and maybe plant some listening devices. But no, I'd love to go in the war room, definitely. But no, I've not been able to go in there yet. Maybe one day.
Do you think the new Bethelite on security, he gets a little pamphlet that says, "These are the guys you need to look out for," and your face is right at the front? Don't let him in the front door again.
Goodness knows. Well, all I know is that when I first went for the Warwick and did the Warwick documentary, they were just completely clueless. And I even gave my full real name at the gates, sort of half expecting them to kind of laugh at me and say, "On your bike." But they let me in. And there was no indication when I was in there that there was anything untoward. But of course, since then, the documentary went up on YouTube. And I know that, I think, for example, Telltale tried to do a trip to Warwick and had a very different reception. So it wouldn't surprise me if nowadays it is much, much harder to get into, certainly the United States facilities. Yeah,
I imagine that.
Yeah, sorry, Baron, go.
No, you're right.
I was just going to say we also see it with ones like Erwin Zolkin who are out the front and can't get in past the gates as well. So it seems to be, yeah, as you mentioned, it does seem a very, very cultish, doesn't it? That it's all locked up and it's not really public, is it?
No, you're very, as I commented in the documentary, you're kind of confined to the visitor center, and there are even kind of guards on the door. There are like people wearing security and with like walkie-talkies, so that people can't go into where the actual work is done. So
I mean,
you're almost hermetically sealed from anything any actual work that's being done on the
we've
site.
got an apostate in the building.
I mean, that's something that they, at least for me, they didn't teach me that, in Bible study, that, we have this complex there and we have these people that are reuniting them there. But it's eye-opening, I have to say.
Indeed. Well, thank you so much, Baron, for joining us. Please join us for a future viewer invasion as well.
Of course.
I hope you enjoyed the show.
Thank you.
Take care. And that's it for the viewer invasion. Thank you so much to all the super chats that have been coming through and all the comments that have really been making me chuckle. We've consider governing body update number 6 covered with the help of my good friend Hayden, who obviously is here with Tony Morris just behind him.
Well, someone said in the comment we should ask Tony what the portrait was. What photo was it? What portrait was it, Tony? No, he's still got a bit of a...
I think he's still a bit comatose. One too many McKellens. But anyway.
You all right? You all right?
Hayden, it's been obvious. It's been obvious from the... Oh, Deanna's here. I'm going to put Deanna's comment on just to register that she does sometimes watch these things. She's going to kill me.
She's
for saying
probably
that.
she's probably watching, and then she saw Tony over my shoulder and she switched off.
But quite a few comments, Hayden, saying that you did a fantastic job. So hopefully we'll have you on again if that's okay. My plan is to rotate co-hosts on these governing body updates, so it won't be the same person next time, but you will certainly, with Hayden's consent, be seeing him again.
I'll get plenty of sleep. Don't worry about that.
Okay. And what time is it there at the moment?
It's currently, well, when we started, it was 5 o'clock in the morning. It's 20 to 7 now, so I'm off to work.
Okay. Well, I hope work goes well. And viewers, I hope you've enjoyed this show. Don't forget that you can see more like it by subscribing to the Lloyd Evans channel. But for now, that's all we have. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.